The meeting room was tense. Bright lights shone on serious faces. Politicians, scientists, and military leaders sat around a large circular table. Their debate was about something small, a metal box that could change everything. The quantum resonance field device sat in the center of the table. It looked innocent, simple, but everyone knew its power. Senator Lee spoke first. Her voice was sharp. "This is too dangerous," she said. "We cannot have a technology that can force people to feel things." Chief Engineer Min-Woo Choi sat quietly. He had heard these arguments before, many times. "It's not forcing," he explained. "It's helping people understand." Another politician stood up. His name was Director Park. "What happens if someone uses this wrong?" he asked. "What if someone decides to control entire populations?" The room went quiet. Everyone understood the risk. The quantum resonance field was more than a communication tool. It was a way to see inside another being's mind, to feel their deepest memories, their darkest fears, their biggest hopes. Some people saw this as a miracle. Others saw it as a nightmare. Min-Woo pulled up some research data. Graphs and charts appeared on the screens around the room. They showed amazing results. Conflicts solved. Misunderstandings cleared up. Entire civilizations finding peace. "Look at the data," he said. "This isn't about control. This is about understanding." But not everyone was convinced. A military leader named Colonel Kim spoke up. "We could end all wars," he said. "We could stop conflicts before they start. But we could also destroy personal freedom." The debate went on for hours. Some people saw the technology as humanity's greatest discovery. Others saw it as its biggest threat. Min-Woo understood their fears. The quantum resonance field was powerful, very powerful. It could do amazing things, but it could also be misused. "We're not trying to control anyone," he explained again. "We're trying to help beings understand each other." The device in the center of the table seemed to watch them. It was just a small metal box, but it could change everything. Senator Lee wasn't finished. "What about privacy?" she asked. "What about the right to keep your own memories private?" Good question. The quantum resonance field didn't just share information. It created total emotional connection. It could show everything. Every memory. Every feeling. Every hidden thought. Min-Woo had an answer. "The technology is voluntary," he said. "No one can be forced to use it. It only works if both sides agree." But the politicians weren't completely happy. They wanted rules. Strict rules about how the technology could be used. "We need protection," Director Park said. "We need to make sure this can't be misused." The meeting continued. Hours passed. The quantum resonance field device sat quietly, waiting. Outside the meeting room, the world kept moving. Alien species were finding new ways to communicate. Old conflicts were healing. New understanding was growing. But the debate wasn't over. Not by a long shot. "This is bigger than any technology we've ever created," Min-Woo said softly. "This changes everything." The politicians looked at each other. They knew he was right. Humanity had discovered something incredible, a way to truly understand another being. But with that discovery came a big responsibility. How would they use this power? Would they help, or would they hurt? The quantum resonance field waited, silent, powerful, ready to change everything. The stars outside looked like tiny pinpricks of cold light against the deep black of space. Inside the research vessel *Harmony*, everything was quiet. Too quiet. Captain Jae-sung Park stood near the main window, his eyes fixed on the endless darkness. His hands were clasped behind his back, a habit he had picked up during his many years in space. Lieutenant Hai-Jin Kim watched her screens carefully. Her fingers moved quickly across the holographic display, checking and rechecking the ship's systems. Something felt different today. The sensors were picking up strange signals, energy readings that didn't match anything in their database. "Captain," she called out, her voice breaking the silence. I'm seeing something unusual. Jae-sung walked over to her station. The screen showed a complex web of energy patterns, colored in shades of blue and green. These weren't random signals. They were organized, almost like a language of light and energy. "Can you translate this?" he asked. Hai-jin shook her head. "Not yet, but it's definitely not natural. And it's getting closer." The Harmony was a research vessel, not a warship. It carried scientists, researchers, and explorers who wanted to understand the universe. They had mapping equipment, communication devices, and a small defensive system. But they weren't prepared for a real fight. Outside, space began to change. It was like watching water ripple, but in complete silence. A massive shape started to form, darker than the space around it. Slowly, a huge alien ship emerged from what looked like a tear in space itself. The ship was unlike anything humans had seen before. Its surface wasn't smooth like human ships. Instead, it looked organic, almost like it was alive. Dark metal, or was it something else, seemed to move and shift. Patterns that looked like veins or blood vessels ran across its surface. This was a Krellfar vessel. Every human in space knew about the Krellfar. They were conquerors. Where they went, entire civilizations disappeared. They didn't negotiate. They didn't communicate. They simply arrived and took what they wanted. On the bridge of the Harmony, the crew froze. Some people stopped breathing. Others gripped their stations so tightly their knuckles turned white. Ai-jin's hands moved automatically. Shields up. Defensive systems ready. But they all knew it wouldn't matter much against a Krellfar ship. These ships were legendary for their destructive power. Captain Park remained calm. He had seen many strange things in his years of space exploration. But this was different. Something about this moment felt special. The alien ship didn't attack immediately. Instead, it seemed to be studying the Harmony. Its massive form dwarfed the human research vessel. It was like a whale looking at a small fish. "They're scanning us," Hai-jin reported. Her voice was steady, but everyone could hear a slight tremble. Jae-sung nodded. "Keep all communication channels open. No sudden moves." Young crew members looked terrified. Some of the older researchers seemed almost excited. This was a moment they had trained for. First contact with a species known for its brutality. The ship's computer began to translate the initial communication signals from the Krellfar vessel. Strange symbols appeared on the screens. They looked like a mix between mathematical equations and living artwork. "What do they want?" someone whispered. Captain Park didn't answer immediately. His eyes were fixed on the alien ship. He had a feeling that everything was about to change. Not just for them, but possibly for all of humanity. The Harmony drifted in space, a small human vessel facing a giant of unknown intentions. Seconds felt like hours. The crew held their breath, waiting. Something was coming. And nobody, not a single person on that ship, had any idea what was about to happen. The communication came exactly 7 days after the Harmony's encounter with the Krellfar ship. It wasn't a message. It was something else entirely. Lieutenant Hai-jin Kim was the first to see it. Her screen lit up with strange symbols. They weren't words. They weren't a language anyone had seen before, but somehow everyone understood them. The Krellfar were surrendering. Not just their ship, not just this battle. They were surrendering their entire approach to space exploration. Captain Jae-sung Park read the transmission carefully. His hands were steady, but his eyes showed surprise. The message wasn't written. It was felt. Each word carried centuries of emotional weight. "They want to talk," Hai-jin said. Her voice was quiet. The quantum resonance field had done something impossible. It hadn't just stopped a potential battle. It had changed an entire species' way of thinking. In the days that followed, strange things began to happen across space. The Krellfar ships that had been preparing for invasions stopped moving. They began sending out messages. Not threats, not warnings, but apologies. Entire planetary systems that had been waiting in fear suddenly received transmissions. The Krelthar were admitting to their past actions. They were asking for forgiveness. Chief Engineer Min-Woo Choi worked day and night. The quantum resonance field was doing more than anyone had expected. It wasn't just showing memories. It was creating total understanding. "This is more than communication," Min-Woo told Captain Park. "This is a complete emotional reset." News spread quickly through human space. The most feared species in the galaxy was changing, not because they were forced to, but because they truly understood the pain they had caused. Diplomatic channels went crazy. Other alien species couldn't believe what was happening. The Krelthar, a race known for destruction, were asking to make things right. One transmission showed a Krelthar commander rebuilding a city they had destroyed centuries ago. Another showed Krelthar scientists working to heal environmental damage from their past conquests. It wasn't just about stopping wars. It was about healing. The quantum resonance field had discovered something important. True communication isn't about talking. It's about feeling, understanding, experiencing another being's entire emotional history. But not everyone was happy. Some human politicians became worried. This technology was too powerful. What if it was used wrong? What if someone could force people to feel things they didn't want to feel? Captain Park understood their concerns, but he also saw something else. A chance to change everything. "We're not controlling them," he explained during a meeting. "We're helping them understand themselves." The Krelthar were just the beginning. Other species began to request meetings, not with military commanders, not with politicians, but with human empathy engineers. Min-Woo developed the next version of the quantum resonance field. This one was even more powerful. It could potentially affect entire planetary populations. The technology was both a weapon and a peace tool. It could destroy conflicts before they started, not by killing, but by creating total understanding. Space began to change, slowly at first, then faster and faster. Centuries of hatred began to dissolve, not through treaties, not through negotiations, but through pure, total emotional understanding. The Harmony continued its mission. But now it was more than a research vessel. It was a messenger of a new kind of communication. Humanity had discovered something incredible. The most powerful force in the universe wasn't a weapon. It was the ability to truly feel what another being feels. And everything was about to change. The Krelthar ship hung in space like a broken toy. Its massive dark hull no longer looked threatening. Now it looked sad, broken, exposed. Inside the Harmony, the crew watched in silence. No one had ever seen anything like this before. Chief Engineer Min-Woo Choi continued to monitor the quantum resonance field. His fingers moved slowly across the control panel. Each movement sent new waves of emotional energy toward the alien vessel. "It's working differently than we expected," he said quietly. Captain Jae-sung Park walked closer. "Explain." Min-Woo pointed to his screen. Complicated graphs showed waves of energy moving between the two ships, but these weren't normal energy waves. They looked more like tangled threads of feeling. "The device isn't just showing memories," Min-Woo explained. "It's making the Krelthar truly feel those memories, every moment of pain, every moment of loss." On the alien ship, something incredible was happening. The Krelthar had a long history of conquest. For thousands of years, they had moved across space like a terrible storm. They destroyed worlds without thinking. Entire civilizations disappeared when they arrived. But now, they were experiencing everything they had ever done. A Krelthar commander saw his first invasion through new eyes. He wasn't the powerful warrior anymore. He was the child whose home was being destroyed. He felt the fear, the total loss, the complete helplessness. Another crew member relived the moment they had destroyed a peaceful planet. But this time, he wasn't watching from a ship. He was on the planet's surface. He felt every scream, every moment of terror. These were not just memories. They were complete experiences. Lieutenant Hai-Jin Kim watched the alien ship's systems. "Their weapons are completely offline," she reported. But it wasn't because of damage. It was because the crew was too overwhelmed to do anything. "This isn't a weapon," Captain Park said softly. "This is something else." Min Woo nodded. "It's understanding. Pure and total understanding." The quantum resonance field continued its work. It didn't just show memories. It created total empathy. The Krell-Thar were experiencing the pain of every being they had ever hurt. Thousands of years of conquest were being replayed. But this time, they were the victims. Hours passed. The Harmony remained still. The alien ship didn't move. Inside the Krell-Thar vessel, something was changing. The crew's connection was shifting. Their usual cold, calculating way of thinking was breaking down. They were learning something humans had always known. True connection comes from feeling. "Look," Hai-Jin suddenly said. The alien ship was sending a signal. But it wasn't a threat. It wasn't a weapon charge-up. It was a communication request. They wanted to talk. Captain Park smiled. This was more than a victory. This was a transformation. The quantum resonance field had done something impossible. It had turned a potential battle into a moment of understanding. The most powerful weapon was not a gun or a bomb. It was the ability to truly feel what another being feels. Outside, stars continued to shine. Space remained vast and dark. But something had changed forever. Humanity had discovered a new way of solving conflicts. Not through destruction, but through complete understanding. The Harmony waited. The alien ship waited. A new kind of communication was about to begin. The Harmony drifted through space. Stars moved slowly outside its windows. Inside, everything was quiet. Captain Jae-sung Park stood where he always stood, looking out, thinking. 20 years had passed since the first encounter with the Krell-Thar. 20 years of change, of understanding, of something new. The quantum resonance field had changed everything. Lieutenant Hai-Jin Kim, now Chief of Diplomatic Relations, sat at her station. Her hair was gray now, but her eyes were still sharp, still curious. "Remember when we thought this was just a weapon?" she asked. Jae-sung smiled. "We were wrong," he said. The universe looked different now. Alien species that used to fight now worked together. Civilizations that used to destroy each other now shared resources, all because of understanding. The small metal box that had started everything sat in a special display case. It looked simple, almost boring, but everyone knew its power. Chief Engineer Min Woo Choi had retired, but his work continued. Young scientists were still improving the technology, making it better, safer. "We didn't conquer the stars," Min Woo had said in his last public speech. "We connected with them." The Harmony continued its mission, not as a warship, not as a research vessel, but as a messenger of understanding. Hai-Jin pulled up some data on her screen. Conflict rates across the galaxy had dropped by 89%. Cooperative scientific projects had increased by 276%. These weren't just numbers. These were lives saved, worlds protected. "We found something more powerful than any weapon," she said softly. Jae-sung nodded. "Compassion," he said, amplified to its technological potential. Outside, a new alien ship approached. It didn't look threatening. It looked curious, ready to communicate, ready to understand. The quantum resonance field had shown something important. Conflict wasn't about differences. It was about not understanding those differences. Young officers on the ship listened to stories about the first encounter, about how everything changed, about the most important discovery in human history. It wasn't a new weapon. It wasn't a new technology. It was a new way of seeing, a way to truly feel what another being feels. The Harmony moved through space, quiet, powerful, a symbol of something new. Humanity had discovered that the most powerful force in the universe wasn't destruction. It was understanding. And they were just getting started. Somewhere, in the vast darkness of space, 1,000 civilizations waited, waiting to be understood, waiting to understand. The stars continued to shine, silent, endless, full of possibility. 3 days had passed since the encounter with the Krelthar ship. The Harmony was now docked at a small research station near the edge of human-controlled space. Chief Engineer Min-Woo Choi sat in a bright white room, surrounded by screens and complicated machines. Young officers gathered around him. They looked excited, nervous. This was a chance to understand something completely new. The quantum resonance field is not a weapon, Min-Woo began. His voice was calm and clear. It's a communication device, but not like any communication device we've ever seen before. He touched a holographic display. Complicated patterns appeared. They looked like mathematical equations mixed with living organisms. Most people think communication is about words, Min-Woo continued. But words are just the surface. Real communication is about feeling, understanding. The junior officers leaned closer. They wanted to know everything. Min-Woo pulled up a diagram. It showed how the quantum resonance field worked. It wasn't simple. Layers of complex technology moved and shifted on the screen. Our brains create emotional energy, he explained. Most of the time, we can't see this energy. We can't measure it. But it's there, always moving, always changing. He pointed to a specific part of the diagram. It looked like a network of tiny moving threads. The resonance field can catch these emotional threads. Min-Woo said, it can translate them, make them visible, make them shareable. One young officer raised her hand. But how is this possible? Min-Woo smiled. Humans have always been good at understanding each other. We can read faces. We can feel what others feel. The quantum resonance field is like a super-powered version of that ability. The diagram changed. Now it showed 2 brains. Thin lines of energy moved between them. The lines were not straight. They twisted and turned. They looked alive. Imagine being able to truly understand another person, Min-Woo said. Not just their words, but their entire emotional history, their fears, their hopes, their deepest memories. The room went quiet. Everyone understood how powerful this could be. We tested it first on human volunteers, Min-Woo explained. People who wanted to understand each other completely. Couples, friends, people with deep conflicts. He pulled up some early test results. The data was amazing. When people used the resonance field, their conflicts disappeared. They didn't just solve problems. They understood each other at a deep level. The Krelthar ship was our first real alien test, Min-Woo said. And it worked perfectly. We didn't destroy them. We helped them understand themselves. The young officers looked amazed. This was more than technology. This was a new way of solving problems. But this is dangerous too, Min-Woo warned. Imagine if someone misused this technology. They could force people to feel things, to understand things they don't want to understand. He showed another diagram. This one looked darker, more complicated. That's why we're being careful, he said. This isn't a weapon. It's a tool, a very powerful tool. Outside the research station, space stretched out. Millions of stars waited. Each one could have planets. Each planet could have life. Millions of potential conversations waited to happen. The quantum resonance field represented something new, a way of talking that didn't need words, a way of understanding that went deeper than language. Humanity had discovered something amazing, a technology that could change everything. And they were just getting started. The United Earth Diplomatic Center looked different these days. It used to be a place of careful words and hidden meanings. Now, it was something else entirely. Alien representatives from across the galaxy waited in a large circular room. They came from worlds nobody on Earth had ever heard of. Some looked like walking crystals. Others seemed more like clouds with eyes. A few looked almost human. But all of them wanted the same thing: to understand. Lieutenant Hai-Jin Kim stood at the center of the room. She wasn't a soldier anymore. She was something new. An empathy engineer, the most important job in human space exploration. "We're not here to control you," she began. Her voice was calm, clear. "We're here to help you understand yourselves." The quantum resonance field equipment sat in the middle of the room. It looked simple, a small metal box with a few blinking lights, but everyone in the room knew its power. The Zornak representative moved first, a creature made of what looked like living crystal. Its body shifted and changed as it spoke. "We have heard about your technology," it said. The words came out like music and mathematics at the same time. Hai-Jin nodded. "It's not a weapon," she explained. "It's a communication tool, the most advanced communication tool in the universe." One by one, the alien representatives shared their stories, their fears, their hopes. The quantum resonance field made everything clear. No hiding, no lies, just pure, total understanding. A representative from a water-based planet spoke about generations of conflict. Another from a world of living machines talked about their struggle to understand emotion. Each story was different, but also the same. Chief Engineer Min Woo Choi watched from the side of the room. He had improved the technology, made it stronger, more precise, but he still didn't fully understand its power. The field doesn't just share memories, he would explain to anyone who would listen. It creates total empathy. It lets beings truly feel what others feel. The diplomatic meetings went on for days, but they didn't feel like meetings. They felt like healing. Conflicts that had lasted thousands of years began to dissolve, not through treaties, not through negotiations, but through complete understanding. The United Earth Council watched carefully. Some politicians were worried. This technology was powerful. Too powerful, some said. What if it was misused? But the results spoke for themselves. The Krelthar, once the most feared species in the galaxy, were now helping rebuild worlds they had destroyed. Other species were sharing technologies, sharing resources, sharing understanding. Hai-Jin looked at the quantum resonance field device. So small, so simple, yet so powerful. "We're not controlling anyone," she would say. "We're just helping everyone see the truth about themselves, the truth about others." Outside the diplomatic center, space seemed different. The stars looked brighter, closer, like they were watching and waiting. Humanity had discovered something incredible, a way to communicate that went beyond words, beyond technology, a way to truly understand. The quantum resonance field was changing everything, and they were just getting started. Captain Jae-sung Park watched from a distance. He remembered the first encounter with the Krelthar ship, how close they had been to destruction. Now, everything was different. "This is why we explore," he said softly. "Not to conquer, not to fight, but to understand." The diplomatic center continued its work. Alien representatives continued to arrive, each one hoping to learn, to grow, to truly connect. Humanity had found the most powerful weapon in the universe: the ability to feel. The silence on the bridge of the Harmony was thick. Captain Jae-sung Park watched the alien ship through the main window. Its massive shape blocked out the stars, a dark shadow that seemed to breathe with some kind of strange life. Lieutenant Hai-Jin Kim's fingers flew across her control panel. Her eyes were wide, but her hands were steady. Years of training had prepared her for unexpected moments. But this was beyond anything in their training manual. "Weapons are charging," she said quietly. The Krelthar ship began to glow. Not with light, exactly. It was more like a deep, dark energy that seemed to pull at the edges of reality. Everyone on the Harmony knew what this meant. The alien ship was preparing to fire. Most crews would have panicked. Most ships would have sent out desperate distress signals. But not the Harmony, not these humans. Chief Engineer Min Woo Choi stood up from his station. He walked over to a small device tucked away in the corner of the bridge. It looked simple, almost too simple. A small metal box with a few blinking lights. Nothing about it suggested it could change everything. Quantum resonance field, Min Woo said. His voice was calm. Experimental system, never tested in real combat. Captain Park nodded. Now's a good time to test it. Hai Jin looked confused. Sir, that device won't stop their weapons. It's not a shield. It's not a weapon. But Min Woo was already working. His fingers moved across a small control panel. The little metal box began to hum. It was a sound that wasn't really a sound, more like a feeling that moved through the air. On the alien ship, something started to change. The Krelthar had conquered thousands of worlds. They had destroyed civilizations without a second thought. Their technology was centuries ahead of most species they encountered. They believed they understood everything about warfare. They were wrong. The quantum resonance field did something impossible. It didn't attack. It didn't defend. Instead, it began to reach into the very minds of the alien crew. Inside the Krelthar ship, something strange happened. The crew began to feel things, not their own feelings, but feelings from everywhere, memories that were not their memories. A young Krelthar warrior suddenly remembered losing his first family during a conquest. The pain was so real, so sharp, that he fell to his knees. Another remembered the first civilization they had destroyed. The screams, the fear, the total destruction. These were memories buried deep, memories they had tried to forget. The quantum resonance field pulled them out, made them real again. On the Harmony asterisk, Min Woo watched his screens. It's working, he said softly. The alien ship's weapons began to power down, not because they were destroyed, but because the crew inside was experiencing something they had never experienced before: total empathy. They were feeling the pain of every being they had ever hurt, every world they had ever conquered, every civilization they had ever destroyed. Captain Park remained calm. This wasn't about winning a battle. This was about something much bigger. Hai Jin couldn't believe her eyes. The massive Krelthar ship, a vessel of destruction, was now drifting. Powerless, not from physical damage, but from emotional overload. What did we just do? She whispered. Min Woo smiled. We showed them what it means to truly understand. The quantum resonance field continued its work. Quiet, powerful, changing everything. Outside the ship, stars continued to shine. Space remained vast and silent. But something fundamental had just changed. Humanity had discovered a power unlike any weapon, a power of complete understanding. And nothing would ever be the same again. The United Earth Council made its decision on a cold morning. Sunlight touched the massive glass building in New Geneva. Inside, something important was happening. We are creating a new category, announced Secretary Kim. Her voice was clear and strong. Empathetic conflict resolution. The quantum resonance field was no longer just a weapon. It was no longer just a communication tool. It was something else entirely. Around the world, people watched the broadcast. Some were excited. Some were scared. But everyone understood something big was changing. Chief Engineer Min Woo Choi stood to the side. He looked tired. Years of work had led to this moment. The technology he had helped create was about to change everything. This is not about control, Secretary Kim continued. This is about understanding. The new classification meant something important. The quantum resonance field would be treated as a diplomatic tool, not a weapon, not a threat, but a way to solve problems. Across human space stations, research centers lit up. Scientists began new studies. How far could this technology go? What could it really do? The first tests came quickly. A conflict had been brewing between two human colonies on Mars. They had been arguing for years. Resources were tight. Tempers were hot. Lieutenant Hai Jin Kim was sent to help. She carried the quantum resonance field device. It looked simple, a small metal box with blinking lights. On Mars, people were surprised. They expected soldiers. They expected lawyers. Instead, they got hygiene, an empathy engineer. "We're here to help you understand each other," she told the colony leaders. The device worked quickly. Suddenly, each colony leader could feel what the other felt. Their fears, their hopes, their real problems. The conflict ended in hours, not through compromise, not through fighting, but through total understanding. More stories began to spread. A diplomatic mission resolved a 100-year conflict between two alien races. A human research team helped a water-based civilization understand their own environmental crisis. The technology was changing everything. But it wasn't perfect. Some people still worried. What about privacy? What about personal boundaries? What about the right to keep your own memories private? The United Earth Council created strict rules. The quantum resonance field could only be used with full agreement. No one could be forced. No one could be controlled. Minwu worked on improving the technology, making it safer, more precise. Each version was better than the last. Alien species began to request human help. Not military help, not technological help, emotional help. "We want to understand," they would say. The quantum resonance field became something special, a bridge between different beings, a way to see beyond words, beyond culture, beyond biology. Captain Jae-sung Park watched these changes. He remembered the first encounter with the Krulthar ship, how close they had been to destruction. Now, everything was different. "This is why we explore," he would tell young officers, "not to conquer, not to fight, but to understand." Schools began to teach about empathy engineering. Young people saw it as an important job, a way to help the universe heal. The technology spread, slowly at first, then faster and faster. Conflicts that had lasted thousands of years began to disappear, not through force, not through war, but through understanding. The metal box with blinking lights had changed everything. Humanity had discovered the most powerful tool in the universe, the ability to truly feel what another being feels. And they were just getting started.